Hi, I'm Sarah with Loaves and Dishes. And of course, Goose had to squeak his toy right when I said that. And this is the very first ever episode of Cooking the Books. So for today's episode, I'm going to be making a chicken Caesar salad for dinner. I'm going to tell you about Play Nice by Rachel Harrison, a book that I recently read. Rachel Harrison is a favorite author of mine. She's written 7 books. One of those is a short story collection. She's a horror author, but I don't think that she fully fits into the horror genre. It's kind of like cozy horror, but it's not always cozy either, and it really just depends on the book. So the first book of hers that I read was called Cackle, and that one was kind of cozy. I read it so long ago I don't fully remember the plot, but I do remember it feeling cozy. She's also written Return, which was actually kind of spooky. That one was kind of horror, and it was a little bit different than her other books. Most recently, she wrote So Thirsty, which is a vampire story. That one came out September or October of last year, and previously, So Thirsty held the spot for my favorite Rachel Harrison book. It was a vampire story. It was really great. There's a lot of really great quotes from that book. Main character was sort of unlikable, but in a way that made her likable. Basically, her life was falling apart. It was her birthday. She was supposed to be celebrating her birthday with her friend, found out her husband was cheating on her again. She's kind of miserable in her life, doesn't really like her life, continued to make the safe choice because she thought that was the right choice, but turns out it just made her unhappy. Then she and her friend meet vampires, and then she continues to just make terrible decision after terrible decision, but in a way that you're rooting for her to make bad decisions. Anyways. Okay, so that's kind of like a backstory on Rachel Harrison's books. I love her books. So Play Nice, also, thank you so much to Penguin Random House for sending me an advanced reader copy of this book, follows 3 sisters, Cleo, Louise, Barnes. That's the main character. Her sisters, Daphne and Leda. I don't know if I said her name right, but I actually physically read it, so who knows how it's actually pronounced. I'm gonna watch this lettuce. Okay, so it's about these 3 sisters and their estranged mother named Alex. They refer to her as Alex, not Mom. And at the beginning of the story, Cleo gets a phone call and she finds out that her mom has died. Sort of suddenly. They were not expecting it. It was unexpected. Cleo is sort of unlikable. She's a fashion influencer, lives her life on social media, and she's unlikable, but it makes sense in the context of the story. So she goes home and she decides that she wants to go to the funeral. She and her sisters are estranged from their mom. None of the sisters are gonna go. And so when she goes to this funeral, she finds out that the house that they grew up in when they were kids, her mom still owned it, even though they thought that it had been sold. And that house, their mom believed that it was possessed by a demon, so much so that she wrote a book about it. So it's like a classic haunted house or possessed house story in that way. Cleo goes, finds out that they still have this house, and then decides that since it belongs to her and her sisters, that she's gonna do a renovation. That she's gonna reno it, and then they're gonna sell it, and it's gonna be great for her. And she was young when they lived in the house. She doesn't really remember any of the stuff that happened. So she's very nonchalant about it, very chill about the whole situation. Her sisters are not happy about it. And this is something that I really, really enjoyed about this book. I think that Rachel Harrison did a great job of portraying the sisters. There was a lot of loyalty between the sisters, but then there was a lot of jealousy, a lot of times where they just really didn't like each other, and I felt like it was a very accurate portrayal of sisterhood. So anyway, so Cleo goes to the house, and obviously weird things start happening. And she uncovers some things about her past and her mom's past that, kind of changed her perspective, changed her relationship with her family. Anyway, so that's kind of the gist of the story. That's basically what the book is about. Since this is gonna go on top of a Caesar salad, I didn't want to do anything too crazy to the chicken, so just a little bit of seasoning. Not anything wild. And I'm gonna put this in the oven. I'm gonna make this dressing in a quart container, and that's probably too big of a container because it's gonna make like a weirdly small amount of dressing. And what I love so much about Rachel Harrison's books, what I love so much about her books are, one, they're usually around 350 pages, which is like the perfect amount of pages for a book. It's not too long, it's not too short, although sometimes I do like a little short story. The other things that I really love about her books are they're kind of genre defining. Technically, she's a horror author, but none of her books feel, like some feel more horror than others, but they never feel, they're not body horror, they're not disgusting. There are some spooky moments. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's thrilling, but never, I don't know. I've read some books where it's like just body horror. It just feels like gratuitous violence, and I don't really like that. That's not what her books are like. The other things that I really like are that the writing is really accessible. Her books are super easy to read, fun to read. It's not like overly flowery prose or anything like that. It's like enough detail without it being too much. Like Stephen King, which I like Stephen King. Stephen King is too much. It's too much detail. Sometimes you want that. Most of the time I don't. Anyways, so her writing is really accessible. Getting out the big guns. Okay, I think that's good. So back to what I like about Rachel Harrison's books. So great writing. Her main characters are always very complex. They're complex, but not like not in a weird way. They're complex in a relatable and fun way. Not always fun, actually. I take that back. She writes good characters, and I feel like she writes characters that are a little bit different than what you would normally see in a horror book. So the last thing that I'll say about Rachel Harrison's books, the other thing that I really enjoy, is that they're very feminist. It's always like a real feminist take on the horror genre. So I just really appreciate like the feminist take, and it's like sometimes it's like not in your face and it takes some like thinking about. Sometimes it is in your face, which I also appreciate. I like when an author is trying to say something and they point it out to me. Because sometimes I'm just reading for a good time and not for critical thinking skills. So I really love this book. It comes out on September 9th. You can pre-order it now. I'll put a link in the description so that you can pre-order it. Also, pre-order from your local independent bookstore. Don't pre-order it from Amazon. Amazon is actively trying to put independent bookstores out of business so that then they can raise the prices on books. That's their whole shtick. This is a phenomenal book. This was great. And let me know if you like this video. I'm gonna put the rest of dinner together and I'll show that to you, and that's it. This was the first episode of Cooking the Books. If you liked this and you wanna hear more about my latest hyperfixation on reading, please let me know and I'll tell you about other books that I've read, because I read a lot of books. I like to read and I like to cook. Let me know and I'll tell you about them. I'm gonna put dinner together, and that's it. I'll see you in the next one.